Has your marriage lost its spark? Do you feel like your husband is growing distant without any clear reason? If so, you're not alone. What if the person you thought you knew best is now the one you're growing apart from? Let's talk about why this happens. Over time, marriages go through changes. In some cases, these changes are natural, while in others, they leave you feeling confused, hurt, and even unsure about the future of your relationship. You might feel lost, wondering what went wrong, and questioning whether you can ever get things back to where they once were. But understanding what's happening can be the first step in healing. In this video, we'll explore why husbands sometimes begin to dislike their wives as they get older. You may be experiencing this shift right now, and it can feel overwhelming. But don't worry, recognizing the reasons behind it is the first step to making things better. If you find value in this video, kindly like, share and subscribe to enable us grow this community of like minds. 1. Changing dynamics in marriage. As we age, relationships face challenges. It's something every couple will experience, but it's not just about getting older. It's about understanding what's happening underneath the surface. Over time, things change, sometimes in ways we don't expect. We can start to feel disconnected from the person we once felt closest to. What's behind these changes? Marriage, like everything else in life, doesn't stay the same. It evolves. In the beginning, everything might feel new and exciting. The connection is strong, and the bond feels unbreakable. But as time goes on, things can shift. Life happens. Responsibilities build up. Careers grow. Families expand. All of this takes a toll on a relationship. It's important to recognize that the changes you're feeling in your marriage aren't always about one person or the other. They don't always mean that one partner is doing something wrong. Sometimes, it's just the result of both partners going through physical and emotional changes that can alter how they relate to each other. When we talk about physical changes, we're talking about the way we look, the way our bodies feel. The natural signs of aging, like weight gain, wrinkles, or changes in energy levels, can affect how we see ourselves and how we see our partners. These changes don't happen overnight, but they build up over time, and they can shift the way a partner feels about the relationship. But physical changes aren't the only thing at play. Emotional changes can happen too. As we grow, we go through different stages of life. Our priorities shift. Our emotional needs change. The person you married years ago may no longer be exactly the same, and that can be difficult to adjust to. It's easy to feel frustrated or confused when things feel different. You may wonder why you no longer feel the same connection. But the truth is, change is a natural part of life. It's not just about growing older, it's about how both of you are growing, evolving, and experiencing life together. So, what can you do when things start to feel distant? The answer is simple, even if it's not always easy: reconnect. The goal of this video isn't just to point out the reasons behind these shifts, but to offer a way to rebuild the bond you share. A relationship can thrive again, but only if both partners are willing to put in the work. It's about understanding the changes, accepting them, and taking the steps to reconnect emotionally and physically. It's easy to look at the surface of things and get discouraged. The truth is, relationships are constantly evolving. And while it may seem hard now, recognizing these changes and addressing them can lead to a stronger, more fulfilling connection. 2. The physical and emotional shift. As time passes, the way we look and feel changes. Weight gain, wrinkles, hair loss, these things happen. They're natural parts of aging. You may notice these changes in yourself, or maybe you see them in your partner. These changes can affect how we feel about ourselves and how we see each other. It's not just about how we look, it's about the feelings we attach to those changes. When you look in the mirror, it can be hard not to notice the changes. Maybe your body doesn't look the same. Maybe you've gained a little weight or your skin doesn't have the same glow it once did. And it's easy to think that these physical changes are what's affecting your relationship. You might feel less attractive, less desirable. Your partner might feel the same way. But the truth is, these physical changes are only one part of the equation. Physical attraction isn't just about what's on the outside. It's about how we nurture each other emotionally, how we maintain vitality in our connection. The emotional side of a relationship is just as important as the physical. If we stop focusing on each other emotionally, the attraction starts to fade, regardless of how we look. Think about Sarah and John. They used to spend hours together, talking, laughing, just being close. But now, Sarah feels a shift. John, who once made her feel like the most important person in the world, is more focused on his career than ever before. Sarah feels less desired. And when she looks at him, she wonders, is this the new normal? Has the connection they once had simply disappeared? What's happening here isn't just about the changes in their appearance. It's about the emotional distance that's grown between them. John might still love Sarah, but he's no longer putting in the same emotional effort he once did. He's distracted by his career, and in doing so, he's not giving her the attention and connection she needs. Understanding that attraction is more than skin deep is key to reconnecting. Physical changes are natural, but they don't have to lead to a loss of intimacy. It's how we emotionally support each other, how we nurture our connection, that keeps the bond alive. Reigniting that emotional closeness can bring back the desire and attraction that's been lost. So, when physical changes start to make you feel disconnected, remember, it's not just about what you see in the mirror. It's about the effort you both put into staying emotionally engaged. If you want to reconnect, start by nurturing your emotional intimacy. That's what keeps a relationship strong and vibrant, regardless of the changes that come with time. 3. Communication breakdown. Over time, couples stop talking about their needs. Conversations shift from meaningful to transactional, and misunderstandings begin to pile up. At first, it might seem like nothing serious. You're both busy with life, work, kids, chores, and you think, we'll get to it later. But that later never comes. You stop having the deep conversations you once shared. It starts with small things. You stop asking about how your partner's day went. Instead, it's about the bills, the groceries, the schedule. It's about getting through the day rather than truly connecting. Slowly, the real conversations fade away, and what's left are just logistics, surface-level exchanges that don't really touch the heart of your relationship. This shift is subtle, but it's dangerous. When partners stop being emotionally available for each other, frustration and resentment grow. One partner might feel unheard, unappreciated, or even invisible. The other might feel overwhelmed, trying to manage everything alone. The more you stop communicating emotionally, the further apart you drift. And this emotional neglect? It doesn't just hurt the individual, it hurts the marriage. Over time, both partners begin to feel the strain. One might become resentful because they feel like they're doing all the work, while the other feels neglected, emotionally alone. The gap grows wider with every unspoken word, every moment of silence. But it doesn't have to be this way. The good news is that addressing communication breakdowns can reignite the emotional spark. It might feel awkward at first, but once you start talking again, really talking, things can begin to change. It's about making the effort to listen, not just to reply, but to understand each other. Imagine talking with your partner not about the kids or bills, but about your dreams, your feelings, about each other. Imagine taking a few minutes each day to ask, how are you really feeling, and listening closely to the answer. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about sharing the emotional space, about making time for each other. This doesn't happen automatically. It requires effort, but it's the kind of effort that can transform your relationship. It's never too late to rebuild your communication. Start by making that first step, open up. The more you share, the more you'll feel connected. And when that emotional connection strengthens, so does the rest of the relationship. 4. The routine trap. After the honeymoon phase, life can become routine. Raising kids, managing careers, it can drain the emotional energy needed for connection. In the beginning, everything felt fresh and exciting. There were spontaneous outings, late-night talks, and moments that made you both feel like the center of each other's world. But then, responsibilities pile up. You're juggling work, bills, chores, and all the small things that come with daily life. Slowly, the time and energy for each other starts to slip away. This routine sets in and starts to take over. You find yourselves going through the motions, day by day. Instead of looking forward to each other's company, you start functioning like roommates, people you share a house with, but not necessarily a life. The emotional connection weakens, and so does the intimacy. You go to bed next to each other, but it doesn't feel like you're really together anymore. You're no longer building memories, you're just surviving. Ben and Emily used to love date nights. They'd dress up, go out for dinner, and spend time talking about everything and nothing at all. But now, they're so consumed by responsibilities, work, taking care of the kids, household tasks, that those special moments are rare. They've drifted into that place where life is more about getting through the day than really living it together. They still love each other, but they've lost touch with the connection that made them feel alive. The good news is, breaking free from routine can bring back the spark. It doesn't take much, sometimes, it's just about setting aside time for each other. Simple actions like going on a date night or even taking up a new hobby together can reignite passion. It's about making each other a priority again. Even if it's just for an hour, focusing on each other can remind you both of what made your relationship special. Sometimes, it's not the big things that matter, but the small moments. It could be a walk after dinner, holding hands while watching your favorite show, or sitting down to talk about something meaningful. The key is to be intentional about reconnecting, to make space for each other in your busy lives. When you do that, the routine starts to fade, and the excitement comes back. 5. The role of parenting. Parenthood introduces a new level of responsibility and stress. When you become parents, your world shifts. Your attention is divided. The focus naturally moves to your children, and that's completely understandable. They need you. They demand your attention, your energy, and your care. But what happens when that focus starts to consume your entire emotional capacity, leaving little space for your partner? In many relationships, the wife often takes on the brunt of the parenting duties. She becomes the primary caregiver, the one who's handling the kids' needs, managing their schedule, and making sure everything is in place. Meanwhile, the husband might be focused on his career or other responsibilities. This imbalance can create emotional distance. When the emotional labor falls disproportionately on one partner, the other can start to feel neglected. The husband might feel like he's not as important as the kids. His needs aren't being met, and he might feel like he's slipping further into the background. Take Tom and Michelle, for example. Tom loves his children, but he starts to feel like his wife, Michelle, is always too busy with their kids. She's always running errands, taking care of homework, making sure they're fed and ready for bed. He's left feeling like an afterthought, overlooked and distant. It's not that Michelle doesn't care, it's that her attention is divided, and Tom feels like he's no longer the priority in her life. But it doesn't have to be this way. Parents need to nurture their partnership. It's easy to get lost in the whirlwind of parenting, but it's important to carve out time for each other. Scheduling us time, even if it's just for a walk or a quiet dinner, can make all the difference. It's essential to reconnect emotionally, to remind each other that you're still partners in this journey, not just co-parents. Parenting may change how you interact, but it doesn't have to take away from your relationship. By making the effort to spend quality time together, you can rebuild the emotional intimacy that might have faded. Even in the midst of raising children, it's vital to remember that your relationship comes first. After all, a strong relationship is the foundation that helps you both be better parents. So, make time for each other. You deserve it, and so does your marriage. 6. Unmet emotional needs. Over time, emotional needs might go unspoken. We assume our partner knows what we need, what we're feeling, or even how we want to be loved. But here's the truth: love requires continuous effort. If we expect our partner to simply know, without ever sharing, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that everything is fine because we're just moving through the motions. But inside, we can be yearning for something more: attention, affection, understanding. Feeling unappreciated can hurt. When one partner feels invisible or unimportant, it breeds frustration. That frustration grows into resentment, and eventually, it starts to pull at the fabric of the relationship. We stop feeling like we matter. We stop feeling seen. And it's painful. Every day that goes by without addressing this, the hurt grows. Over time, it becomes harder to reach out for the connection you once shared. The longer it goes unnoticed, the more resentment takes root. Take Anna and Mark, for example. Anna thought Mark knew how much she needed support after a tough week at work. She thought that he could see the stress on her face, feel the exhaustion in her voice. But Mark didn't say anything. He didn't ask how she was doing, and that silence left Anna feeling neglected. He never offered comfort, and the emotional gap between them started to widen. What she needed was simple: acknowledgement, support, understanding. But she didn't express it, and Mark didn't ask. The result? Anna started to feel disconnected. She wondered if he cared. She wondered if she mattered to him at all. This is where things get tricky. When emotional needs go unspoken, they're often left unmet. The pain starts to build, and it becomes harder to reconnect. But this isn't the end. There's a way out. Communicate your emotional needs. It sounds simple, but it's not always easy. We sometimes expect our partners to read our minds. Instead, express love. Be vocal about your struggles and desires. Let your partner know when you need support, when you're feeling overwhelmed, or when you just need a hug. It might be hard at first, but it's necessary. The more open you are, the more you create space for both of you to feel seen and heard. Only then can the emotional connection be restored. 7. Unresolved conflicts. When issues pile up without resolution, they turn into resentment. Finances, household chores, personal disagreements, these are the things that can seem small at first, but when left unresolved, they compound over time. It's easy to sweep things under the rug to avoid conflict, but the problem is that the more you ignore, the bigger the problem becomes. Issues that go unaddressed become like cracks in the foundation of your relationship. And eventually, those cracks grow large enough that you can no longer ignore them. Ignoring conflicts might seem easier in the moment, but it only worsens things over time. Every time you avoid a conversation, the problem doesn't go away, it grows. Instead of fixing it, you bury it deeper, and it begins to affect the way you interact with each other. Communication breaks down. Resentment grows. Trust starts to erode. And before you know it, you're arguing about things that are really just symptoms of deeper, unresolved issues. Take Greg and Laura. They never addressed their financial stress. The bills were piling up, and they couldn't agree on how to handle the situation. Instead of talking about it, they kept silent. Over time, the tension between them grew. They stopped sharing their feelings, and the emotional connection started to fade. The financial stress wasn't the problem, the real issue was the lack of communication. They didn't talk about their concerns, their frustrations, or their needs. Instead, they silently grew more distant. The cracks in their relationship became too wide to ignore, and by the time they realized it, the emotional gap felt impossible to bridge. So, what's the solution? The key is to tackle issues head-on. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but honest conversations are necessary for growth. Don't wait for things to build up. If something's bothering you, talk about it. Be honest. Ask questions. Listen to each other. And most importantly, be willing to compromise. No one is perfect, and no relationship is without its challenges. But the best way to face those challenges is together, not in silence. By addressing the issue before it becomes a mountain, you can protect the emotional connection that's at the heart of your marriage. 8. The midlife crisis. At a certain point in life, people begin to reflect on their journey. They look back at what they've done, what they've achieved, and where they've ended up. For many men, this self-reflection can trigger what's known as a midlife crisis. It's a time when they start questioning their choices, their direction, and even their marriage. When a husband is in the midst of a midlife crisis, he might start questioning whether the life he's built with his wife is fulfilling. He may wonder if he's truly happy or if he's simply settled for something less than what he had hoped for. The questions can be unsettling. Did I miss out on something? Is this all there is? These feelings of disillusionment and dissatisfaction can lead to emotional withdrawal. The connection he once felt might start to fade as he struggles with the realization that he may have overlooked or neglected parts of himself. Take David, for example. In his early 40s, David finds himself questioning everything. He asks himself whether his marriage still brings him joy or if he's simply settled into a comfortable routine. The excitement and passion that once defined his relationship with his wife seem distant, replaced by feelings of uncertainty. David is torn between his responsibilities and the nagging thought that he might have missed out on something more. This internal conflict causes him to pull away from his wife emotionally, making her feel increasingly disconnected from him. So, what can be done in this situation? The first step is recognizing that a midlife crisis is not the end of the relationship. It's a signal that change is needed, and it's an opportunity to reassess life together. It's essential to acknowledge these feelings and communicate openly about them. Seeking support, whether through therapy or simply having an honest conversation with a spouse, can help navigate these difficult emotions. Talking about the fears, the doubts, and the hopes for the future can lead to a stronger connection, not one that fades. By recognizing the crisis and addressing it together, couples can create a deeper understanding of each other. A midlife crisis doesn't have to destroy the relationship. It can be the catalyst for growth and a deeper connection if both partners are willing to face it together. 9. External stresses. When life outside the marriage becomes overwhelming, it can strain the relationship. Work, money problems, health issues, these external pressures add a significant amount of weight to anyone's life. And when that weight isn't shared, it creates distance between partners. Think about it. When one partner is constantly stressed about work or dealing with financial difficulties, it can affect their mood, their patience, and their ability to be emotionally available. A husband might pull away during tough times, retreating into himself to handle the pressure. This withdrawal can leave his wife feeling unsupported, as though she's facing the storm alone. The emotional gap between them widens. He's dealing with the external stress, but she's dealing with the emotional distance. This is where the emotional withdrawal can become dangerous. When one partner feels unsupported, it leads to frustration. The sense of being alone in the relationship intensifies, and that frustration can lead to more resentment, more distance, and more confusion. The longer the emotional disconnect lasts, the harder it is to repair. The solution to this problem is simple but not always easy. Couples need to be each other's support system, especially during difficult times. It's not about solving each other's problems but about offering empathy, understanding, and a listening ear. When life outside the marriage is overwhelming, it's vital to lean on each other. Instead of withdrawing, offer a comforting presence. Let your partner know that no matter what's happening in the outside world, you are there for them. Offering that emotional support can make all the difference. When you face life's challenges together, you strengthen your bond. When one partner withdraws, it creates a wall between you. But when you turn toward each other, that wall comes down. Communicate openly, share your burdens, and be a team. In the end, it's not just about surviving the hard times, it's about growing closer through them. 10. Lack of appreciation. Everyone wants to feel valued. When we put effort into something, we want to know that it matters, that the person we're doing it for notices. But when one partner's efforts go unnoticed, it creates bitterness. Over time, this lack of appreciation can erode the connection between partners, leading to feelings of resentment. Imagine Tom, who spends long hours at work. He's working hard to provide for his family, taking on extra shifts, and sacrificing his own time and energy to make sure everything is in order. But when he comes home, he doesn't hear a word of acknowledgement from his wife, Julie. His sacrifices go unnoticed. She doesn't thank him for the long hours or the hard work. She doesn't see the effort he's putting in. And so, Tom begins to feel like his contributions don't matter. The more he feels unappreciated, the more frustrated he becomes. What he needs is simple: acknowledgement, appreciation, and gratitude. But instead, he feels invisible. This lack of appreciation doesn't just hurt, it breeds resentment. The more Tom feels like his efforts are taken for granted, the more distant he becomes. And this isn't just about him, it's about both of them. When appreciation is missing, it can create a gap in the relationship, making both partners feel disconnected. So, what's the solution? Appreciation goes a long way. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, but small, consistent acts of gratitude can make both partners feel loved and valued. A simple "thank you for the hard work," a compliment for a job well done, or even just acknowledging the little things your partner does every day can make a huge difference. It's about making sure your partner knows that they matter, that their efforts are seen, and that they're appreciated. These small gestures can reignite the bond and prevent feelings of resentment from taking root. It's not always easy, but there's hope. Understanding the root causes of emotional distance is the first step toward healing. The changes, the misunderstandings, the feelings of neglect, they don't have to define the future of your relationship. By acknowledging these issues and taking action, couples can reconnect, rebuild, and even grow stronger together. Take the first step today: open up a conversation with your partner. Talk about how you feel, what you need, and listen to each other's struggles. Rebuilding that emotional connection is possible, but it requires effort from both sides. Has your marriage gone through changes like this? Let us know in the comments section. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories. Every relationship has its ups and downs, but the key to moving forward is understanding and communication. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and share it with anyone who might benefit. Subscribe for more relationship tips and advice. Your relationship deserves attention, care, and effort. And it's never too late to start making those changes.